There comes a moment in every difficult relationship, whether it's a friend, a partner, or even a family member, when the mask slips, when the truth is no longer hidden under charm, excuses, or manipulation. You see the pattern clearly. You see them clearly. And that's the moment when something profound happens. They realize you know who they really are and what they've done. When the truth finally breaks through their web of lies and half-truths, bad people rarely accept responsibility. Instead, they begin to rewrite the story in a way that paints them as the one who has been hurt. The moment you expose their deception, you will see a shift, a dramatic transformation where the person who caused the pain suddenly becomes the one who claims to be in pain. They will act wounded, confused, or even betrayed by your confrontation. They might say things like, "I can't believe you would think that of me," or, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" These are not statements of confusion. They are manipulative tools designed to make you question your perception of reality. The goal is not to clear the air or repair trust. The goal is to regain control of the narrative by turning your truth into an attack. When someone plays the victim, what they're really doing is protecting their ego from shame. Shame is unbearable for people who thrive on control because it threatens the identity they've constructed. The mask they show to the world. Owning their behavior would mean acknowledging the harm they've caused and facing the discomfort of guilt. But rather than choosing accountability, they choose avoidance. They twist the story until they are the misunderstood hero, and you become the cold, heartless accuser. In this moment, the conversation shifts away from truth and toward emotional manipulation. You find yourself defending why you brought it up instead of addressing what they actually did. This is how they maintain power. By keeping the focus on your reaction instead of their action, it's important to understand that this form of victimhood is not vulnerability. Vulnerability involves honesty and ownership. It's saying, "I see where I was wrong and I want to make it right." Playing the victim, on the other hand, is performance. It's emotional theater designed to trigger your empathy and make you feel like the villain for simply seeking honesty. They rely on your compassion because they know you care deeply. They know you have a strong sense of fairness, and they exploit that. When they say things like, "I guess I can't do anything right," or "everyone always blames me," what they're really doing is fishing for reassurance. They want you to comfort them, to backtrack, to apologize for your courage in confronting them. And if you do, they win, not because the truth disappears, but because you've been manipulated into silencing yourself again. This pattern is one of emotional warfare. They use your own empathy as ammunition against you. They'll bring up old wounds, moments when you were wrong, or times they supported you to make you feel indebted to their kindness. It's a calculated tactics. If they can make you feel guilty, they never have to feel guilty themselves. Over time, this dynamic becomes exhausting. You start to question your perception, wondering if you've overreacted or misunderstood. You start walking on eggshells, trying to avoid upsetting them again. This is the subtle erosion of self-trust. The more you try to explain your truth, the more they shift the story until you're the one apologizing for their behavior. And that's how manipulation takes root, not through force, but through emotional confusion. But here's what you must remember when someone weaponizes victimhood. It's not a reflection of your insensitivity. It's a reflection of their fear. They cannot stand in the light of truth because truth requires accountability And accountability requires growth. And growth is terrifying for someone who has built their identity on control. So they choose comfort over courage. They cling to their role as the misunderstood one because it allows them to avoid change. And you, the truth teller, become their threat, not because you're wrong, but because you're right. Your clarity exposes their chaos. Your honesty reveals their disguise. And that to them is intolerable. The hardest part of us dynamic is learning to hold your ground without losing your empathy. Because when you care deeply, it hurts to see someone spiral into self-pity instead of growth. It's tempting to soften your truth, to protect their feelings, but doing so only delays your healing. You must remember that compassion does not mean compliance. You can feel for their pain without excusing their behavior. You can love someone and still choose to stop absorbing their blame. Standing in your truth is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's the act of refusing to let someone twist your awareness into guilt. When they play the victim, they're trying to trap you in a story that keeps them safe and keeps you small. But the moment you refuse to play that role, the moment you stop explaining, defending, and apologizing is the moment you begin to reclaim your power. And that is the first step toward emotional freedom, seeing manipulation for what it is, and choosing honesty over illusion, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. When bad people realize that their lies no longer work on you, they often turn to the oldest and most destructive form of manipulation, rumors. It's a defense mechanism born out of fear and desperation. The moment they sense they've lost control of the narrative with you, they look for new ground to claim it elsewhere. They begin to whisper to others, weaving stories that paint you as unstable, cruel, jealous, or dishonest. This isn't accidental. It's intentional image management. They want to make sure that by the time you share your truth, others already doubt you. It's a strategic move to discredit your voice before it even reaches an audience. The irony is that the louder they talk, the more obvious their fear becomes. They're not protecting their reputation. They're protecting their false aid. When you start hearing secondhand comments like, "I heard you've been acting differently," or "They said you've been distant lately," that's when you know the smear campaign has started. The stories will be sprinkled with fragments of truth, just enough to sound believable, but wrapped in distortion. They might say, "I don't want to talk badly about them, or I'm really worried about their mental state." On the surface, these statements sound caring, but underneath, they're crafted to manipulate others' sympathy while casting subtle doubt about your character. This is emotional camouflage, an attempt to hide cruelty beneath concern. Their strategy is simple. If they can't control you directly, they'll control how others see you. They thrive on creating confusion because confusion keeps them powerful. One of the hardest parts of this experience is that you can't always defend yourself. Trying to chase every rumor, clarify every story, or correct every lie will drain your energy and feed their narrative. They want you to react because your reaction validates their story. The more emotional you become, the easier it is for them to say, "See, that's exactly what I was talking about." That's why silence in this case becomes your greatest strength. The truth doesn't need to shout, it needs time. When you stay consistent in your integrity, when your words and actions continue to reflect your honesty, people eventually see through the performance. Lies have short legs. They can run fast, but they can't run far. What's crucial to remember is that this behavior isn't about you. It's about their inability to handle exposure. They feel threatened because you've seen behind their curtain, and rather than face the discomfort of being seen, they try to make you invisible. They spread rumors to shift attention, to make sure the spotlight moves away from their wrongdoing. But every rumor they spread is a confession in disguise. It's proof of their insecurity and fear of being truly known. Healthy people don't destroy others to protect themselves. Only those who fear the truth resort to sabotage. So when you hear lies being whispered about you, try to reframe it, not as an attack on your worth, but as evidence of their unraveling. There's also something deeply revealing about who believes those rumors. When you're being smeared, watch who listens, who spreads, and who asks you directly. Some people will be quick to take sides without seeking understanding, and while that hurts, it's also clarifying. It shows you who values truth and who thrives on gossip. It separates your circle from your crowd. The people who truly know you won't be swayed by noise, they'll stand firm in their understanding of your character. They'll come to you not to question, but to support. And sometimes losing those who believe lies about you is not a loss at all. It's a cleansing. In the end, rumors are a test of faith, not in other people, but in yourself. You have to trust that truth has its own quiet power. It doesn't always defend itself immediately, but it always reveals itself eventually. Every false story fades when the storyteller runs out of credibility. The best thing you can do is stay rooted in authenticity. Keep living in a way that contradicts the lies. Let your peace, your consistency, and your kindness tell the real story. Because while rumors can distort perception, for a moment, your integrity has the power to rewrite the narrative for a lifetime. When a dishonest person realizes you know the truth, one of their most disorienting tactics is to pretend that nothing ever happened. It's not denial in the innocent sense of the word. It's manipulation in its purest form. They act casual, calm, and composed as though the confrontation never took place. They'll call you like nothing's wrong, make small talk, and resume their regular habits. This is not because they've made peace with what happened, but because they're trying to control the emotional climate. If they can convince you that everything is fine, they can avoid accountability and keep the dynamic exactly as it was, comfortable for them, confusing for you. It's a psychological strategy called gaslighting by omission, rewriting reality by refusing to acknowledge it. This tactic is powerful because it undermines your sense of truth. You start questioning yourself. Maybe it wasn't that bad, or maybe I'm being dramatic. That's exactly what they want. When they act as though nothing happened, it places the emotional burden back on you. Now you're the one holding the discomfort, the confusion, and the need for resolution. They've escaped responsibility simply by acting like there's nothing to resolve. It's an attempt to rewrite the emotional script, to push you into silence through normalization. And slowly, you begin to feel like you're living in two worlds, one where the truth happened and one where it didn't. This internal tension is exhausting. It's like trying to hold on to reality while someone keeps rearranging the furniture in the dark. Pretending nothing happened is their way of keeping control without confrontation. To admit the truth would mean acknowledging the harm they caused, the lies they told, or the betrayal they committed. That would require emotional labor, empathy, and vulnerability, things they often avoid at all costs. So instead, they choose the illusion of peace. They prefer the appearance of harmony over the substance of healing. You might hear them say things like, "Why are we still talking about this?" Or, "Can't we just move on?" These phrases sound like an appeal to forgiveness, but they're actually an avoidance of accountability. They don't want reconciliation. They want relief from the discomfort of being seen. The danger of this tactic is that it conditions you to accept silence as resolution. Over time, you start to doubt whether it's worth bringing things up again. You start minimizing your own pain because they seem so normal. You convince yourself that it's easier to stay quiet than to be labeled as difficult or emotional. This is how emotional suppression becomes a habit. You begin carrying the weight of unspoken truth in your body through anxiety, resentment, or exhaustion because you're living in a dynamic that refuses acknowledgement. And this ultimately is the goal of their denial, to make you carry both the truth and the burden of silence. It's emotional outsourcing. They don't have to feel guilty if you're the one doing all the emotional work. But the truth doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. Denial is not healing, it's avoidance. And avoidance only buries pain until it finds a new way to surface. Pretending nothing happened might keep the peace temporarily, but it creates a deep fracture in trust that never truly heals. The connection becomes artificial, held together not by honesty, but by fear of disruption. The moment you stop participating in that illusion, everything they've been avoiding comes crashing down. That's why they resist acknowledgement so fiercely. They know that once truth enters the room, control leaves it. And for someone built on manipulation, control is oxygen. Without it, they can't function. When someone pretends nothing happened, they're not offering peace. They're asking you to participate in their lie. And your choice in that moment determines your freedom. You can continue to play along, keeping the illusion alive for the sake of comfort, or you can step into honesty, even if it means stepping into conflict. Because real peace isn't the absence of tension, it's the presence of truth. And when someone refuses to face that truth, your silence becomes their shield. But when you refuse to pretend, when you stop matching their calm with compliance, you reclaim your voice. You remind yourself that your emotions are valid, your memory is real, and your truth is not up for revision. When bad people realize their lies have been uncovered and manipulation no longer works through charm or denial, they often escalate to emotional blackmail. It's their most desperate form of control, using your empathy, fear, and love against you. Emotional blackmail can take many forms: guilt, tripping, threats of abandonment, pity pleas, or even dramatic displays of despair. They might say things like, "I guess I'm the worst person ever," or, "If you walk away, I'll have nothing left." These statements are not expressions of vulnerability. They are tools of coercion. The goal isn't to repair the relationship or acknowledge the harm. The goal is to make you feel responsible for their emotions so that you'll stop holding them accountable. At its core, emotional blackmail is psychological warfare disguised as intimacy. It's designed to keep you trapped in a cycle of fear and guilt. The blackmailer knows that you care deeply, that your compassion runs deep enough to override your boundaries. They prey on that kindness. They sense your discomfort with conflict and twist it into compliance. When they cry, withdraw, or threaten to leave, they're not showing remorse. They're manipulating your instinct to nurture. It's a form of emotional exploitation where they weaponize your empathy to avoid their shame. And the moment you yield, the moment you apologize for simply standing in your truth, you reinforce their belief that this tactic works. The danger of emotional blackmail is that it can make you confuse cruelty for connection. When someone you love uses pain as leverage, it creates an invisible chain between you, one made not of love, but of fear. You begin to anticipate their reactions before you even speak. You start editing your truth, softening your tone, or avoiding topics altogether to prevent another emotional outburst. Over time, this conditioning makes you believe that peace equals silence. You start thinking, if I just stay calm, maybe they won't explode. But that's not peace, that's self-erasure. You begin living in a state of quiet tension where your emotions are always second to theirs. And that's exactly what they want: control disguised as closeness. What's important to recognize is that genuine vulnerability doesn't demand silence or submission. True vulnerability says, I want to work through this, not do what I say or I'll fall apart. When someone uses their pain to punish you, that's not emotional honesty, that's manipulation. They might threaten to leave or even harm themselves to make you feel cornered. They might bring up your past mistakes as ammunition to discredit your current truth. But you must remember, you are not responsible for someone else's refusal to take ownership of their actions. You can offer empathy, but you cannot offer yourself as a shield for their shame. Love cannot thrive where fear is the currency. Breaking free from emotional blackmail requires immense courage. You have to learn to sit with the discomfort of their reactions without trying to fix them. You have to let their anger, tears, or silence belong to them, not you. Setting a boundary will trigger their panic because boundaries strip away their power. They will say you've changed, that you've become cold or selfish. But what's really happening is that you're reclaiming emotional balance. You're refusing to participate in a game that keeps you small. And yes, they might leave. They might lash out. They might call you cruel. But in truth, you're doing the most compassionate thing possible, refusing to enable emotional harm disguised as love. Emotional blackmail thrives on your fear of being seen as the bad person. But healing begins when you realize that protecting your peace doesn't make you heartless. It makes you whole. The moment you stop absorbing the weight of someone else's emotions, you return to yourself. You remember that love is not meant to be a leash. Compassion is not meant to cost your dignity. You can care deeply and still say no. You can feel their pain without carrying it. You can walk away from manipulation without abandoning your empathy. Because real connection, the kind built on truth, does not demand suffering as proof of love. It invites honesty, not fear. And the moment you stop letting emotional blackmail define your choices, you begin living from strength, not survival. When manipulative or bad people realize that you've seen through their lies, their next move is often one of social warfare. They begin turning others against you. It's a tactic born out of insecurity and control. The moment they feel their mask slipping in front of you, they rush to secure their image in front of everyone else. They know that truth has power, but they also know perception has speed. So before you can even process what's happened, they begin shaping the narrative. They call it venting, sharing their side, or clearing the air. But what they're really doing is recruiting allies. Their goal is to make sure that when your truth comes out, it lands on ears already filled with doubt. At first, it can be subtle, small comments here and there, carefully crafted to sound innocent. They might say, I love them, but they've been acting strange lately, or I'm really worried about how they're handling things. These words are manipulative in their softness. They're designed to sound caring while planting seeds of mistrust. And then, as the story spreads, it grows. Details are added, context is twisted, emotions are exaggerated. Suddenly, people you thought were neutral begin pulling away. You sense a shift in tone, a change in how they look at you. What you're experiencing is not paranoia, it's social manipulation. You're being quietly erased from your own story. This is one of the most painful tactics because it targets your sense of belonging. Humans are wired for connection, and when that connection starts to crumble, it creates deep emotional distress. They know this. They understand that isolating you is more powerful than arguing with you. If they can make others question your credibility, they don't have to defend their actions. The group will do it for them. It's an efficient form of control. Divide, distort, and dominate. They rely on the fact that most people are uncomfortable with conflict and prefer easy explanations. So they offer a narrative that feels comfortable. You're the problem. And because it's easier to believe a calm liar than a distressed truth teller, people often side with the one who appears more composed. What makes this tactic so cruel is that it forces you into silence. You begin to feel like anything you say will sound defensive. You start over-explaining yourself, trying to correct every false story, but the more you explain, the guiltier you seem. That's the trap. They want you to tire yourself out trying to prove your integrity while they continue weaving their version of reality. This dynamic can make you question your worth and wonder if people will ever see the truth. But here's the difficult truth. Some won't. Some will choose the comfort of the story they've been told over the complexity of who you really are. And as painful as that is, it's also clarifying. Because not everyone who stands beside you is loyal to your truth. Some are loyal to the performance. However, time has a way of revealing what manipulation tries to conceal. Lies are temporary, but consistency is permanent. If you keep living in truth, not reacting from bitterness, not engaging in the same games, people begin to notice. They see that your actions don't align with the stories they've been told. They start to question, to compare, to observe. Slowly, the illusion breaks. And when it does, it's not just your reputation that's restored, it's your peace. The people who truly know your character will come back with humility. Others may never apologize, but they will remember how calm you stayed when they expected chaos. And that quiet strength will speak louder than any defense you could have given. In the end, when bad people turn others against you, what they're really doing is exposing their own fear of exposure. They're terrified that the world will see them as you do, unmasked, imperfect, and manipulative. So they build alliances to protect their false identity. But no alliance built on deceit can stand forever. Your job is not to chase rumors or convince anyone of your truth. Your job is to stand so firmly in integrity that the noise around you loses power. Every whisper fades when met with silence grounded in self-trust. You don't need to prove your goodness. You need only to live it. Because while they're busy managing impressions, you're busy living in authenticity. And authenticity, no matter how long it takes, always outlasts illusion. When the truth comes to light, it doesn't just reveal who others are, it also reveals who you are. It shows your strength, your patience, and your capacity to stand in honesty even when the world around you trembles with denial and deceit. Bad people fear exposure because truth dissolves the mask they've spent their lives perfecting. But you, the one who sees clearly, must remember this, knowing the truth is not a burden. It's a blessing. It frees you from illusion, even if it breaks your heart. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when their lies echo louder than your clarity. You'll question your sanity, your memory, even your goodness. That's what manipulation does. It tries to make you forget your power. But hold on to this, the truth does not need to shout. It simply exists. And its quiet presence within you is stronger than all the noise they create to drown it out. Your peace does not depend on them admitting what they did. Your healing begins the moment you stop waiting for closure from those who thrive on chaos. Every rumor, every lie, every silent treatment they use against you is a sign of their fear, not your failure. Their behavior is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their avoidance. You cannot fix what refuses to face itself. You cannot love someone into honesty. The only thing you can do is honor your awareness and refuse to betray it. Because the moment you choose to stand in truth, you are already free, no matter who walks away. Healing from this kind of betrayal is not about proving anything to the world. It's about returning to yourself. It's about relearning to trust your intuition, your perception, your heart. It's about choosing peace over performance, clarity over chaos, and dignity over deception. You may have lost people when you spoke the truth, but you never lost yourself, and that's what matters most. So walk forward, not bitter, but wiser. Let truth be your quiet strength. You don't have to expose anyone. Life will do that in its own time. All you have to do is keep living in integrity, because at the end of it all, it's not about being believed. It's about being free.